as I say every year, this is one of the best inventions in scheduling, is to have this challenge between these two great leagues, that you see so few home and homes that happen anymore, and this is a great one. That it turned out to be a home and home for us, even though we didn't schedule it. So I'm excited to have a chance to play against a great North Carolina team. Roy Williams, a personal friend of mine, and just I have so much respect for him. And they've just reloaded incredibly. They got tremendous plays. They really put it on us last year. It was almost the same script as the Villanova championship game. Last 5 minutes of the first half, the first 5 minutes of the second half, everything imploded on us, and all of a sudden we're looking at down by 20. And it even got worse than that. So we're going to have to play better than we did last year. I think I don't know how rusty we were last year. They weren't either. They were coming from the West Coast. We were coming from Hawaii. But we did not play well, and credit North Carolina for that. So late game, we all got it. I don't think any of us love it, but that's the way it is right now, especially if you're a brand like Michigan, Duke and Indiana tonight, 9:30, coast to coast. People love watching games like this. So we're going to really they're excited about practicing again today, and then getting ready for this game tomorrow.
Teo, you want to start us off?
Yeah, UNC is a team that, like, you guys can effectively go small with Luke May at the 4. What challenges does that possess when you play a team that can counter your own small lineup with one of their own?
Well, you mean Luke May would go to the 5-man?
Yeah, Luke May.
They're playing 30 minutes of game big. I don't expect them to change too much from that, but if they do go small, right, then we have that ability to do that, right? I can't say we could do that last year. We couldn't be defensively. That was hard for us. So I think we have flexibility to play a lot of different ways. We still got to stop people, and we still have to be able to score points. But being flexible is good.
Andrew?
Coach, you hear people say, it's important to control the pace in certain games. Like, wondering what that means to you, and whether you emphasize that ever before a game, that we got to control the pace.
I think when I think about Coach Williams' teams in Kansas, it's like when they get into when they're running, they are running downhill. It's like a freight train coming at you. They're big, running to the rim, one following, guys really run lanes, always got a deep outlet, terrific point guard. So it's really hard to do that. We have to make sure we get back and set our defense as much as we can. But the Carolina break, the Kansas break, whatever you want to call it, it's moved so fast, and it caught us. They caught us with a lob to start the game last year, and it was like Muhammad and Duncan stood there paralyzed at what was happening. And we had been over it, but maybe not over it enough. So it comes quicker than you think, and then their motion offense is really underestimated. That they said there's a lot of great screening action in it. And we have to guard. We didn't guard that well last year, but it is tough to control the pace in this team. They're going to force their pace, and we're going to have to adapt at times.
And I know coaches don't like to necessarily compare players, but with Iggy, is there a player that you have coached against or coached yourself who his game reminds you of?
Yeah, he is a cross between the kid I had at West Virginia, Joe Airbear, and a kid I had at Richmond, Scott Unger. That they were sort of these tough, could play the 2, could play the 4. Could guard multiple positions, and so some of those guys were better shooters than others, better playmakers than others. Iggy sort of is young, has a lot of qualities of those guys. My hope is that as he grows and all, he could be like a Manu Ginobili type of player. That he's what position? He doesn't have a position. He just plays, and that's what we're trying to help him develop it to be.
John, Roy just mentioned in his press comments that prepping for your team this year is different than prepping for your teams in years past, just because the defensive first approach has really shown through. So, going off the tempo question, what are you guys trying to do in this game? Last year you started off 8 for 8 at the Smith Center, but things kind of fell apart. How do you keep the offense moving as long as the defense is clicking?
Well, it is tough, because you're not going to score every time down the court, and then when you don't score, if you're thinking about that time you didn't score, they're going to score a bucket on you again and again and again. So make sure we get good shots each time. We took some tough shots when it went away from us a little bit, and we had a couple bad turnovers. So I think just value each possession, make sure we're getting a good shot down the court, and then so we can set our defense, right? You know, now, if we're not a great team at crashing the offensive boards, and anybody that does against North Carolina, you better get them, because they're going to score at the other end. So I hope we're very similar to last year's team in some ways, and it's good that we're different in some ways too.
And when you look at all the historic meetings between these two teams, especially in the tournament, is it hard to believe it took this long for UNC to finally come up here?
Yeah, I was surprised by that, and it probably will be another 50 years before it happens again. Just the way it's sort of let's go play some home and homes. It's all about your league now and exempt tournaments to get your home and home. So that's why this is such a great invention, this crossover.
In the back with Orion.
John, what did you learn about your team after last year's loss to North Carolina?
Oh, that we were pretty resilient, actually. I mean, that when we got to the end of the year, right, and we ended up facing the Texas A&M, who had just a tremendous game against UNC, and all of a sudden they beat them by 20, and we beat them by 20. That's quite a lot of growth over the year for us. That we were really our resiliency last year when we did lose. We grew exponentially after losses. And that one hit home in a lot of areas because they could see how this, taking tough twos, not talking on defense, not really understanding probably the speed that you have to play at defensively really just hurt us. And after that, we really got better in those areas.
And then the freshman not named Iggy, how are they coming along, and would you like to see them?
Every day in practice is another day closer, but it is not as they continue to improve, so does the college game gets better as the year goes on. November is such a poor time to judge where teams are. It's actually the worst time. And it is because people are trying to figure a lot of things out. And judging where these freshmen are in November, it's not a good time either. But every day we're seeing little bits. Do we trust it in the game? We'll see.
Hi.
Okay.
John, what do you think about all of the, I know the new poll came out yesterday with the replacing the RPI. I know it's just the first one, but overall, your thoughts?
Nobody should be rating anything until probably January. Seriously, you got big data, you got little data. It's like a guy that hits a home run the first time up to bat. Well, he's gonna get 65 this year. It's so inexact because we're playing different people, we're traveling, everybody's trying to figure things out. So throw away all polls, and then maybe in January we'll find out where teams really are, and you can start some bracket selection and things like that then.
And North Carolina's number of opponents have come here, like UCLA. I mean, you had Kansas, I think, came here. Duke came here. What's it like to have all these big opponents come to this place?
Well, it should be. Michigan's a big opponent for them too, right? It's a great when you have teams that compete for national championships like Michigan has, like Duke, North Carolina, Connecticut. We've had Kansas. We've had some good teams in here, and they're all competing like we are. So it's great. That's why we love the challenge. We're usually going to get a pretty good game at the other end, and we love it when our students are on campus as well.
John, you guys like to get out and run when you have the chance. I mean, how much of a fine line is it with this team to maybe pick your spots but not get caught up in this turning into
Yeah, it's when you have a 3-on-2 or you have a 4-on-3, if you flip it, the other team has a 4-on-3 coming back the other way. And North Carolina is so good at inbounding the ball, hitting it to the point guard like way up the court, and they're going right back at you. So that's why when we have a fast break point, we'll do a lot of that today again. We're trying still not to tire our guys up. There can't be celebration. And so you got to get stops to run. And if we do get stops, we are going to run. But then whether make or miss, it's the same deal. We have to really protect the basket going forward. Not just initially, but there are 7 or 8 things that the Carolina break does, right, that just you have to guard it all before they even think about a set offense.
And kind of going back to Casey's question about this new ranking system, do you have any concerns with it at all?
No, I don't. No, I think that it'll all come back, in the beginning when people start playing real, we got to finish this period of December, when in November and December, where all these teams are playing in any cross leagues, and then let the league start to take care of things. And who can win on the road, right? Who can win at home? Most of the teams have not played many road games. We've only played one true road game. So there's a long way to go in this thing, and as I said, it's like the batting average that go out the first day of, you know, every year when the Cardinals, if they win their first game, I said, we're gonna go 162-0 this year. We're gonna be really good. And it's just, you know, it's way too early.
Back to Teo.
With the caveat that this is a November game, what can you learn about your defense in a November game against a team like North Carolina, averaging, 96 points?
Yeah, it will be what are we like against Big Ten bodies, right? What are we like against a team that doesn't have, Villanova had a lot of young guys out there, Providence had a lot of young guys out there. What are we doing against teams that don't have as many young guys trying to figure things out? And then we grow from it. Regardless of what happens tomorrow night, we just grow from it. And it really helps when you get a play opponent like this. But their speed, their quickness, their length is like something we will rarely see this year. And somehow we gotta negate that in any way, and then we gotta make shots. You know, we have to go and shoot like we did in the Georgia Washington game. We have to go out and as well as the Villanova game, we gotta go out and make shots.
Anybody else?
What have you learned about Iggy in terms of growth, even these first few weeks since the Villanova game?
Yeah, that he's only a freshman, and that every game we think that we made growth in area, now every game he's got to adjust and say, well, we're not playing it that way anymore because North Carolina does this, which would be exact counter. He looks at me like there's more to this. And that's what I think he's really accepting it too. Understand he wants to be a really good player. And there's not like, hey, I already did that. He wants to grow. But when you have a freshman playing this many minutes, it does stand out, especially defensively, that there's a lot of area to grow there. And he will. There's no question about it. He's just going to keep getting better because he seems to have a capacity to grow more quickly than many freshmen usually do.
Go ahead, Jen.
Glenn Robinson wanted me to ask you who you're rooting for tonight when the Pistons host the Knicks.
I wish that we didn't have our league film tonight or I'd be watching it. I'll be rooting for Glenn, Trey, and Tim. That's what I'll be rooting for. I hope they're the three leading scorers. And you know, but those are that's a tough one for me because the Pistons usually are the team that I'm going to root for. But when they're playing against those two guys, that's a difficult one.
Can I ask you just one other USC question? Is it fun for you when you've got like two kind of polar opposite teams, you know, the high scoring, fast pace, and then the defensive slow down? I mean, is that a fun thing?
You say we're boring? Are you saying we're boring?
No, I'm saying it's probably the way to win. Is that fun for you though, as a coach, to kind of get into that and start breaking
Well,
it down?
I do like this, you know, as we've embraced change all the time, to just say, okay, this is who we are. We're not going to win just running and gunning with people. We have to stop people, and then we can get up the floor. So I think it's part of that puzzle that we love to try and put together. But this is his talent. I think people that we've heard all about the Dukes and now the Gonzagas, the talent on this team, as it always is with Roy, is just it's as good as anybody. This is don't hand national championships to anything until you see this team tomorrow. They're really good. See these two teams tomorrow.
Coach, I know it's only been, you know, a couple weeks here, but what have you seen as far as Xavier and Charles stepping into leadership positions compared to their predecessors in the last few years?
It's been outstanding, and I told them that. They both rode at my house for Thanksgiving, and it was like, I got to tell you guys, this leadership that you're providing, they're holding probably other players accountable on the court, off the court, as good as anybody we've ever had. It's Zach Novak-like, if you remember Zach, where a guy misses a defensive assignment, those two are letting him know it. And that hasn't always happened. That's a difficult thing to tell people what they don't want to hear when it's not the coach. So that's really been good. And they want to play defense. They want to score now, but they want to play defense. And they do not let what happened on offense affect the defensive end, which is really good. But they're showing leadership both in their voices, but also in how they conduct themselves on the floor and off the court. Both of them are really doing well.
Anything else, folks? Bye, Coach.
Okay, thanks, everyone.